What if I told you that one person could shape the way an entire city wakes up, shine a spotlight on life changing causes, and still find time to champion important causes? Well, today's guest is doing just that. Tracy Perlman has spent 16 years behind bringing us the biggest headlines for TV news. But beyond the newsroom, Tracy is a powerhouse in the Twin Cities, raising over $100,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, as well as advocate for ALS therapy and research development. I can't wait for you to hear her story, her passion, and how she's turning connections into impact. So let's dive in. You're listening to Act to Impact with Brandi DeVries. Through heartfelt stories of resilience, hope, and community, I share my personal experience as a longtime advocate and fundraiser for the national nonprofit Children's Cancer Research Fund. Invite pediatric cancer families to tell their stories and highlight individuals who use their unique gifts to create a positive impact. Welcome to Act to Impact. I'm Brandi DeVries, and today I'm here with Tracy Perlman, who I'll introduce in a minute. But first, I wanted to take the time to thank you for listening and sharing Act to Impact. You are helping me reach more action takers and difference makers, people just like you. So before we dive into this episode, let's pause and please take the time to show me how you take action. Click the follow button if you're not following this yet, or subscribe on YouTube. Just like this episode or even leave me a comment. All right, so let's dive into this episode with Tracy. Tracy, welcome to Act to Impact.
Hello, welcome. Hi.
Yes. So, Tracy, you are just always that smiling face that I can expect to see at a few signature events around the Twin Cities and that support our community that we live in. And so, first of all, I just wanted to share how we met and so that the guests can understand like how we're connected and why I have you on the show. So, I don't know, maybe your story is a little bit different than mine. I feel like it's been a number of years now, but I feel like it's kind of interesting how we met.
Probably one of the more interesting ways to make a friend.
Right. I know. I feel like it's a fun story. And I met you when my husband, who was boyfriend at the time, we were invited with a few others to an escape room. And I'm kind of like, do people even do those anymore?
I don't know. I would be up for doing it again though.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll have to bring it back.
Room. We did. Yeah, it was super fun. I think there was like 3 of us that knew each other, and then we all just invited people that the other people didn't know.
Hmm.
And Cole were one of those people that I didn't know, and we left that night friends, which was
I know. Yeah,
fun.
it's really fun. I feel like in that group of people, the comments theme though was like Minnesota Twins or sports or producer type connections, except for me. Then it was just like me. I was a tag along. No
You were
connection to sports or production.
No, no, no. No, no, no. You
Yeah, but it's
got the resume, Brandy. Don't sell yourself short.
thank you. But yeah, since then, it's always been fun to see each other at events in the Twin Cities and connect and get to know you over the years. But one thing that I have really admired about you, Tracy, is that you're such a great people connector, among other things. But that is where I kind of want to start with our conversation today, is to learn more about you and how you're making a connection and an impact in the Twin Cities. So tell us about yourself quickly, where you're from, careers, hobbies, a proud moment maybe recently, and
Yeah.
then we'll kind of get into that impact piece from there.
Yeah. So I grew up in St. Paul, Mendota Heights. Went to the University of Kansas for school, lived in KC for about 2 years, and then moved back home to work at WCCO, and have been here since. And so, um, I love Minnesota. Like I'm a true like rube for the Twin Cities. I love sports. I love, as you know, like I love going to a Twins game. I love going to a Vikings game, or I was at Wolves last night. I love going out and being out and about. And I often joke like I'm just a hype girl. So like if someone's into something, I'm like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. And then I get excited about it too. And so a lot of the things that I love doing are going to events, which is where we run into each other a lot, because I think it's fun. And there's so many great organizations and so many great people here in the Twin Cities that I've connected with that I'm excited to support them because they're supporting great places. As for fun, I just started taking up running again. Oh, there's the treadmill. That's where I'm putting in my miles. So that's a lot of fun. I got a puppy about 6 months ago, and she is a lot of work. I've never had a dog before, but I'm obsessed with her. And that's about it. Just navigating work and life and all of like the changing seasons right now, trying to get outside more and really just enjoy all that there is to do. There's so much to do here in the Twin Cities.
Mhm. It's true. Okay, so it's a Westie, right, that you
Yes,
have? And
a
what's
little
her name?
poppy.
P, that's so cute. Okay, take me back or us back to what is the first organization or cause that you remember supporting and getting involved in the Twin Cities? What started all your philanthropic work?
Yeah. So I was a camp counselor when I was in high school, and there was a lot of kids with special needs that were at the summer camp I was at. And I didn't work with those kids directly, but I loved the staff that did work with them. And I always found myself like gravitating to wanting to do stuff with that. And um, I realized through that camp experience and going to camp myself, like I joke, like shipped off to camp. Like I went to camp for a month at a time, was like sent to Wisconsin, lived in cabins, had the lake life experience. Um, and I realized that I was always able to do everything I wanted to do. My family had enough, resources to send me away to those camps. I had the abilities physically and cognitively to do whatever I wanted. I still do. And it always bummed me out when I saw somebody couldn't participate for some reason. So whether that was you were in a chair or a walker and you weren't able to do stuff on the lake, or maybe you didn't have the cognitive ability to take part in certain games and things like that. And that always bummed me out. And when I moved back home to the Twin Cities, some family friends had started a nonprofit called Paul's Pals, which has since not folded, but it merged into a bigger organization. And the name is escaping me. But we did a lot with them. And their thing was all about inclusivity. So, how are they raising money and raising awareness and education to get um, you know, playground equipment built, or to help schools provide special tables so that kids who sit in a wheelchair can sit at the same lunch table as their classmates. And so we did a lot of that type of advocacy work and a lot of really grassroots community work. We helped different nonprofits that are on our lakes and rivers and park systems get canoes that were wheelchair accessible and handicap accessible. And that felt really good. And that led me to doing stuff with mHealth Masonic Children's Hospital at the U of M, which is such a special organization to me. That those staff members, whether they're medical staff or like support staff, are angels among us, and the work and the dedication that they do. So I'm so proud to be able to support them. I don't have the skill set to help with the medical things. I don't have the skill set to raise millions and millions of dollars, but I can use my voice and I can use my energy to support those difference makers. And it feels amazing.
So what ways are you supporting the difference makers at Children's
Yeah.
Masonic Hospital?
So I'm a volunteer there. I've been a longtime volunteer. They have a TV studio called ZTV, which is an in-house television station that was founded by Jason Zucker and Carly Zucker. And they do a lot of programming for the kids who are in their rooms or the families that are in their rooms. So it's things like music therapy, art therapy, reading time. They bring in special guests and they do different programming. So I came in, this was probably 7 years ago. It was before the pandemic, and was in once a week. And we were doing like bingo and, like I said, art therapy and music therapy. And I would drop off the art kits to the kids' rooms and hang out with them for a little bit, and then work with the art therapist and support her while she was doing different projects for the kids to do in their rooms. So I love supporting ZTV and supporting their programs. I'm also a corporate community board member at the hospital. So with that, they tell us what needs they have, and we use our collective power whether professionally or personally, to leverage those relationships and find the money or the items that they need. So one example of that was they wanted floor mats for the kids' rooms. So whether they have siblings or they want to play or they're doing therapy, they could do it from the comfort of their rooms, which ended up becoming really important during COVID when the kids couldn't go too far outside of their rooms. And one of the people in our group works for Jack Links, and they're like, well, if we can brand it that says like, show us your wild side, like we'll get you guys the mats. And they were like those nice foam thick mats like you have in gym class, and they got them. And so we do stuff like that, and it feels awesome. I also attend all their events. We love Wine Fest, we love Fashion
Mhm.
Fest. You've walked in Fashion Fest. So I love supporting that way too, because you get to bring other people in to see their mission and learn what incredible work they're doing, not just here in the Twin Cities, but really globally as they continue to push research and development and patient care. So it's
Yeah,
a wonderful organization.
I love that. Yeah, it's fun to hear more about the Z Studio and the types of the things that volunteers do at the Children's Hospital with the arts and the crafts. And yeah, is there a minimum volunteer number of hours that somebody has to volunteer there, or
I
is there a minimum requirement?
It's 3 hours a week.
Okay.
Is At least that's what it used to be. I don't know if they've changed it. I think I'm kind of grandfathered in at this point, and I don't get there as often as I was, but I believe it was 3 hours a week. And there's everything from helping restock supply rooms to cleaning the toys, and they've got like little play therapy rooms. Somebody needs to wipe all that stuff down, and so there's that. There's running medications. There's helping get patients from one place to another. They have a library where you can check out books and movies and different things. So there's, no matter what your skill set is, whether you want to work directly with patients or you want to just be support staff and maybe just check people in, or know you're helping by stocking supply rooms, which is a huge help to the nurses, especially, and the therapists. There's a million different things to do, no matter what it is that you want to do, and all day round, right? Like a hospital doesn't shut down, so they need
Mhm.
people around the clock.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, so you maybe alluded to this already, but was there something like a fireball moment, an aha moment for you that really you felt that this one thing sparked your heart of service?
Yeah, I think it was just that experience of growing up and realizing, like, as a camp counselor, like, wow, some of these kids can't participate, and how do we get them to be involved? And I do think inclusivity is more common now than it was when we were growing up, just because of advancements in technology and understanding different disabilities. But like I said, to realize, like, wow, I'm really blessed and really lucky that I can go to summer camp. If I want to go in the lake, I can go in the lake, and I can do the climbing wall, and I can do arts and crafts, or I could do reading time independently. And then to see that some of your friends and peers aren't able to do that really kind of hit a chord with me. And then as I got older, I realized there's something I can do about it. And um I just feel really lucky that I'm able to use my voice that way.
Mhm. Yes, definitely. I think the organizations you serve are lucky to have you. Tell us a little bit more about some of the other organizations that you've supported over the years. And also, with so many great causes and organizations in the Twin Cities, how do you decide where you do dedicate your time and energy?
Oh my gosh, that is the hardest question, because I have such a hard time saying no. If I'm like, oh, I love this, I want to do something with it. I always lean into children's causes. That's going to get me 9 out of 10 times. I really, like I said, the hospital is something I'm very involved in. As you talked about, ALS research was something that's really important to me. I had a friend who was diagnosed when he was 24 years old with ALS, and at 29 passed away. Did not make it to 30, and so that really shaped um, a lot of my view on living and dying, right? And understanding how important research is and how important therapy development is. And so I do a lot of work in his honor. This past spring, I took part in the Minnesota Twins Diamond Awards, which is an award ceremony that the Twins put on every year to kind of kick off spring training, kick off the season, and celebrate the last season. So I was one of the event co-chairs this last year. I've taken part for 2 years now. And this year I had a little more of a high profile role. I was captain of the ALS division. So part of the Diamond Awards is also supporting different neurological diseases and causes that the University of Minnesota Neuro Center does research for. So ataxia, MS, ALS, multiple sclerosis. Yeah, I think that was all of them. And so if I forgot one, I apologize. And so there was different people that represented the different areas of neuro, and I talked about Mike, my friend Mike Winston, who had ALS, and why we realized research was so important for a lot of ALS patients, and a lot of the pharmaceutical companies. Patients die too fast for medications and therapies to be really truly tested and treated. The average lifespan once you're diagnosed is about 3 to 5 years, and so that's not a lot of time to get a drug therapy through and to test people to make sure that they're a good fit for it and to see the results at the long run. Making sure that patients have the support that they need and the technology and different therapies is really important. So I got to combine my love of the Minnesota Twins and neurological diseases and helping other people and combine it into my ultimate favorite thing, which is like throwing a party and having an address. So that was an absolute honor and thrill for me. And the night was very successful. And I was really touched by how many people I knew in the room that didn't know Mike's story and aren't used to seeing me in front of a microphone or in front of a audience talking, who were like, oh my God, we had no idea. And thank you for teaching us that something. And in fact, one of the players had even joked with me, like, we had no idea you talked in front of a microphone. You're always like, camera. And so I was like, thanks, guys. Um, but but it was really cool. And that was something I was really proud of to use my skills for. Another cause that I picked up last year was the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And as you said, I raised over $100,000 in 10 weeks, which I did not know was something I was capable of at all. And, when you hear people say, like, well, if I can do it, you can do it, like, that absolutely rings true with this. And I know you are a big fundraiser and a big supporter of cancer research. And the group reached out. They kind of cold called me and said, we know you do a lot in the community and we'd love for you to take part in this. And I talked to some other friends who took part. So it's a 10-week philanthropic challenge where you're up against other teens trying to raise as much money as possible in those 10 weeks. And I leveraged every friendship, relationship, person I have ever met on the street, asking for money, asking for things, asking for people to come to my events, and was absolutely blown away by the amount of support. Also, totally blown away by the amount of people not affected by cancer, because I know that, but by how many people it was also so important to, that you don't always hear, wear those causes on their sleeves. And so many people wrote me like wonderful little notes with the checks that they sent in, or when they came to events, they shared a story of their loved one who maybe had lymphoma or leukemia. I have a really, really good friend of mine who is a leukemia survivor, and she's a pro wakeboarder and she does stuff on TV. And she let me share her stories, kind of a jumping off point. And then my best friend's mother-in-law had liver cancer, and she always talked about how important that research aspect was, and that it like connected those dots for me, like, yep, this is something I can get behind because I understand the importance of that science. And so we named our team after Candy. And with the $100,000 that I raised, we were able to get a research grant in Candy's name. And I was also able to get a patient grant for patient programming, for people who are either going through therapy and need rides or childcare, help with their medical bills, in my friend Alexa's name, Alexa Score, who is the leukemia survivor. So that that's something I'm so proud of, because I had no idea that I could do that. It was it was absolutely.
That is super impressive. When you were first asked and presented with this opportunity, what was your first thought? Like, how am I going to get this done?
Oh, like, no, I can't do that. I didn't think 50,000 was going to be doable. I was like, I don't have those type of people in my network. Um, you know, I don't have those corporate connections where somebody could just write me a check for $20,000 or $10,000, even $1,000. Um, but then I was like, anything I raise is better than nothing. Like there was no downside, even if all I did was just get the word out about LLS and what they do, then it's a win, right? That's free advertising for them. It's connecting people to the resources that they might need that they didn't know about. So I was like, okay, if all I raise is like $6 and bury my head out of embarrassment for not doing this, then fine. And that was kind of the deciding factor. I hate saying no to a challenge. And I had the time, and I had the energy. And I think they asked me in like January and the competition started in March. So some people have like almost a full year to like plan a campaign. And I was very naive and was like, I can do this in a couple weeks and did it. So I think ignorance was bliss in this time, and having the time was really the blessing this time around. So we don't always like that.
Did you know that you were going to be able to help them determine where the funds that you raised were going to go?
Yeah. So one of the
Okay.
things they tell us at the beginning is for every $50,000 you raise, you can either put it towards a research grant, advocacy work, or patient programming. And so I based like the core of my campaign and the messaging was based around that research development and therapies. And then when I got the second 50,000, I was like, can I do the patient grant? And they were like, absolutely. And I know there's somebody who's in the running for it right now who I'm helping a little bit. And she's trying to get 150,000 so she can get grants in the three people in her lives' names. So it's a really cool. I have like cute, like nice little plaques, like recognizing the work, and I'm really, really proud of it. So that was once I knew that that was the goal. I was like in the back of my head, like, please, please do this, please make it. And I didn't know until that very last night at the awards banquet that I had crossed that $100,000 threshold, because all the money that's raised the night of the final awards or gala um, goes to the individual people that are running. So I was very lucky to have some supportive tables that were there that were very generous, and they helped get me over that threshold.
That's amazing. And it sounds like that was a big motivator for you to be able to direct those funds as well.
Yeah, because it's not it for me. It's not about me and my name. It was about the people I was doing it for, and that excites me, and that's what I'm proud of. Um, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing the work in your own name. That certainly helps draw people in. If people trust you and they know that you are somebody who is motivated with the right causes and you've done your research and you've done your work, then yeah, I'm going to blindly follow you knowing that you've done the hard work already and I'm ready to be there. But for me, I really wanted to honor these women in my life, and that it was really exciting because they didn't know that I was going to do that. So that was kind of a fun way for me to say, like, thank you for letting me share your story, and giving that little bit of extra like love and motivation to them as well.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, I feel like I already know the answer to this question, but let's see. Maybe you're going to surprise me. Do you have a favorite organization? And like, it's okay to have a favorite.
I do. It's the hospital. It's mHealth Fairview, iconic Children's Hospital. Like I could cry talking about how amazing they are and the kids, and like even on like some of their worst days, the nursing staff shows up and they're smiling, and the therapists, and they make it fun, and they I don't want to say that they trick the kids because these kids know what they're going through more than anybody else, but it's a bright and colorful space that is really just full of joy and love and hope, and um and they make it just a wonderful inclusive place so that it's not scary to be in such a scary place, because the parents are scared, and I'm sure their hospital staff is scared at times, but those kids are just so brave, and I can't imagine what they go through. And so to be able to just bring that little bit of extra joy and support, it's such a special place.
And I love that you're bringing the children's hospital up because a lot of the guests that I have on Act to Impact who are pediatric cancer families, a lot of their kids, that's where they have been. And one of the things that they talk about is the experience that takes place at the hospital and how they really help them just still to be able to be kids and act like kids as much as they possibly can, even when they're going through the fight of their life with cancer
Oh,
treatments or
ab-
whatever else they're in the hospital for, unfortunate situation. So yeah, I love that you're sharing about your volunteer experience there and the ways that people can get involved to make a difference there.
yeah, and it's, we're so lucky in the Twin Cities to have such incredible pediatric, not just one, but really,
Hmm.
I mean, Children's Minnesota is also an incredible organization. We have a Shriners Hospital. Mayo is obviously an incredible world-renowned place as well. So we are so lucky to have such incredible resources here for families. And a lot of
Hmm.
times, the patients, they're bouncing back and forth between the hospitals. And so to just know that there's such wonderful people taking care of them and supporting those families is it just makes me proud. It really
Yeah.
does.
I agree. Well, as we've heard, you're deeply involved in philanthropy in the Twin Cities, raising over the $100,000 for LLS, supporting mHealth Masonic Children's, co-captaining the Minnesota Twins Diamond Awards for ALS research. I just wanted to say those again because you should be so proud of all the work that you've done in supporting these organizations. And like I said, I know that they're happy to have you as part of that. But what are some of those untapped skills that being part of these organizations have allowed you to tap into that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise?
I love that question so much, and there's so much. Like I have such a flood of things coming into my head, but really, for me, it's networking and adding value. I'm sure every single person you talk to, you see that they reveal these different sides to them that people don't always know until you're in those situations. And so for me, it was realizing that as I go to some of these events, oh my gosh, Brandy would love this. Like, I should really bring her with me next time or see what event she's going to. And like, can you teach me more about that? Can I come and be a part of your night? And so that networking skill is something that, I use a lot for work when we're trying to research stories or get information about events that are happening around town or, when there is a crime story or a community safety story that we're talking about, it's using those relationships and life experiences in the community that can help connect us to some different people to get that information. And so I use a lot of those skills when bringing people into events or wanting to go to events or learn more about different places. And then it's really about adding value. So what is it that I can do to help other people? And then vice versa. Like what value, what ways are you able to help add value to me, in reciprocation? And that's not why you do things, but I think it just naturally happens when you're with a bunch of like doers and go get. So teach me and help me learn. And then, the next time around when you're needing fundraising items or something, like I'm bought in and I can help add value to that without needing to turn around and be like, well, how are you going to help me? Because at the end of the day, like rising waters rise all ships. And the more money that's raised and the more that we're able to elevate events, the more money that's going to be raised in general. So um, I think when it comes to some of those untapped skills, it's really about being a value creator for the people around me and trying to think creatively about what is that value? Is it um, like I said, is it bringing in auction items? Is it bringing somebody or myself to an event? That's kind of some of those untapped things I think about. I love meeting people at events that I don't know and hearing their story and why they're there and what do they do and what are some ways we could maybe work together in the future.
So think back to like maybe recently, a couple weeks ago, months ago, or something, a time that you noticed that you were using those connections that you have to make a real difference for an organization you support, or maybe it's a new one that you just were introduced to.
Yeah, so a friend of mine works for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. But so she has it and has been dealing with it since she was a teenager. And this was an organization she was always really involved in. Asked me a couple years ago, she had to give a speech at their gala. And she's like, I don't know how to write a speech. And I'm like, shoot, I write for people to talk out loud all day long. So I
Yeah.
helped her write her speech and it went really well. And while we were talking, she was like, I would love to work for Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. This is like a dream job for me to help raise money. Like, I understand these patients, I understand the families. And we just kind of put it into the universe, and we helped her draft a letter to her now boss. And she works there as a fundraiser and a program coordinator. And she raised a ton of money at her last event that she's now in charge of. And she co hosts with other local people. And that has been so cool to see. By using my skills and helping her brainstorm, like, what are ways you could get younger people involved. Not a lot of people like talking about tummy issues and gastrointestinal issues, but it's such a reality for so many people on such different scales. And so I helped her come up and support her ideas for having programming for people in their 20s and 30s and 40s versus the traditional gala, which maybe those young professionals wouldn't be able to attend. But then also, how do you host a gala that has energy and fun when talking about tummy issues? And so that was something I was really proud to see. And again, I'm like, oh my gosh, it didn't have anything to do with me, but it did. Like, I got to support her and see her thrive and shine and continue to grow. And so that makes me feel so good to be able to, like I said, hype other people up and like get all dressed up. I got to wear a pretty blue dress and go with my girlfriends and cheer her on. And all the jokes that we wrote for her speech totally landed too. So I did it.
You're funny too. Okay, I should have added that to your intro.
Self-deprecating, but
Okay, Tracy, through your career in journalism and your work in the community, you've had a front row seat to both challenges and triumphs. Can you share a moment that you witnessed that has deeply moved or inspired you?
yeah. For a long time, WCCO has partnered with Make-A-Wish Minnesota, and we do these wishes and flights events, and it's once a year. And we started, I think, 10 or 12 years ago. I couldn't find the start date. But what we did was we put a couple Wish kids through a giant scavenger hunt across the Twin Cities. And the first year we did it at Mall of America. And it was like the Amazing Race, where we had one day to get, Gabe was his name, through the mall, zip lining, underwater adventure. He had to make a pizza. He had to like do all these different things. And then he found out that he was going to Disney World and SeaWorld. And, in true Make-A-Wish fashion, right? Like bells, whistles, the whole bit. And that day, throughout the day, we kept doing different hits on TV to promote how Gabe was doing and what we were doing and what Make-A-Wish does and why this is so important, and shared Gabe's story and other patient stories. And we raised like 13 million miles, like airline miles, people could donate to help send families on these trips. And that was one of the first times that I was like, whoa, we have such a flamethrower with TV. And I think a lot of people are quick, especially these days, to give TV and mainstream media this bad name for sharing bad information, but there is so much good that we do every single day. Like I said, whether it's a 20-second story telling you one way to save money or how to stay a little safer and be a little smarter, to things like raising all those miles for Make-A-Wish. And the next year we were like, how do we do this even more? Like, people just gave us all their miles. And the next year we raised a ton more miles again. And that time, our kid, who also was named Gabe again, which is just a coincidence, he was into sports. And so I leveraged my relationship with this different sports teams in town. And we literally had him taking batting practice at Target Field. And then he read a clue and he was off to the U of M to play hockey with the Gophers. And the Minnesota Wild were there to welcome him on the ice. And then we ran over to we went back to Mall of America for the zip line, because you have to do a zip line. And we ended up with the Vikings at what was then Winter Park, because they didn't have their new facility yet. And he's running drills with all these Viking legends. And then he gets to the end and like, boom, the cheerleaders are there. You're going to the Super Bowl. And like,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
so
Yeah,
cool.
goosebumps.
So
Yeah.
cool. And like, and this whole time, and his family, and you just see mom, right? Like sitting there just crying because she's so happy for her kid to get to be a kid and to get to meet his heroes who are thanking him for sharing his story and inspiring, them. And so those are those times where I'm like, we did it, and we're getting across, and we're making that impact, and we're sharing stories. Maybe there's people watching who are like, okay, I don't have to give up. I can fight too, because look what they did. Look at that situation, and look at these amazing resources I now can reach out to. Or people just to feel grateful and thankful for what they have in their lives and then pay it forward. So that's the moment that really comes to me, that I'm like, okay, like I this is what I love doing. I love it so much.
I feel like those stories would move anybody. So yeah, it's like I got goosebumps sitting
Yeah.
here
Oh,
listening to them because you could like just feel what those kids were probably feeling going through that. Like they were able to like forget about all their worries for this day
mhm.
and then
Well,
have this wonderful experience too.
like as a mom too, to just be like to feel like you could just take that breath and like, okay, we made it. Today's a really good day, because you've
Yeah.
made really bad days and really hard days. And um I loved, like I remember I just like kept crying. Like when you see these athletes who have seemingly everything, right? And they're like getting down on his level, and talking to him and playing with him and having fun, and saying like, you motivate me, like I'm going to skate harder for you, or I'm going to do whatever for, in your honor. And like, that's so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah. I agree. Well, thank you for sharing those stories. I love those.
It's
Okay,
okay.
so our time together is wrapping up. If you could provide one piece of advice for people looking to make an impact like you are, what would
Yeah.
it be?
Start small. Start small. If you're curious about something, or when you watch a commercial or a TV show and you're like, oh, those pets or those kids, or it could be anything, right? It could be the environment, it could be clean water, it could be um, inclusion, it could be anything. Just start small. Find a group in your community that you could just share a post on. Join their email list. You don't have to give a ton of time and money. A lot of these organizations have the people who are giving the big dollars and giving the big their time. And I think some people feel like if they can't give at that mega donor level, that they're not going to be valued, and that's not true. Show up to an event, call and just ask for a flyer. Those little things, follow them on Facebook, follow them on social media, and see what they're doing. Is there a happy hour event that you can go to, and bring a friend? And even if all you do is have a beer and donate $20, that's $20 that they didn't have, and that $20 makes a difference. So start small, and when things speak to you, like lean into it.
Yeah. And I will say, like, get curious too, like you have done, about the organizations that you didn't know anything about. But that's a good place to start too, is just to get curious, say yes to those opportunities. When someone says you want to come along and learn about this, say yes.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah, for sure. And if you have friends that are going, like people are always like, oh, all you're doing is running to events and you get all dressed up. And I'm like, yeah, it's expensive. Like, yeah, and I'm not saying like the dresses and the night out, but like, tickets to events are expensive. And I had to learn to budget for that, because that was important to me. I would rather go to $150 wine event for as a fundraiser than blow $150 on a dinner with girlfriends. Like I'm still going to be with my friends that night, but for me, I just feel better about spending my money that way, and have really learned to budget for it, because I love going, and I love the way it makes me feel. And I'm not going every single weekend either, because that I'm not one of those big budget donors. I am the $25 to $50 donor, but again, like you bring a couple friends, and then you just added all that extra value.
Yep, that's a great point. So, all right, Tracy. Well, thank you so much for being on Act to Impact today. If people want to learn more about you or organizations that you support, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I would say the easiest way to get a hold of me is probably on Instagram. And my name is Partray, Partray. It's an old nickname. I was social chair for my sorority because I love a party. And so there's that. And I post a lot on there. But then also mHealth Masonic Children's Hospital is incredible. I encourage anybody who's interested to reach out to them. And then also LLS, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Their Minnesota chapter right now is in the middle of their Visionaries of the Year campaign. So you can reach out to that and see what they're up to and what events are happening. And I'll be sharing stuff on my socials as well about those events. So thank you so much for having me, Brandi. This is incredible. And I love hearing how people can get involved and what inspires them. And you're doing an awesome job helping elevate and spotlight all of these amazing people.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that and love that you were willing to join me on Act to Impact. You've been listening to Act to Impact with Brandi DeVries. If this show ignited your fire and inspired you to take action to make an impact, please share this episode with a friend, leave a 5-star review, or write a review to let others know how the show impacted you. I can't wait to see the action you are taking to make an impact, and I'd love for you to share that with our community. Go ahead and tag me on social media as you are out making an impact in the world. Do you have a story to share and want to be a guest on Act to Impact? I'd love to connect with you.